Welcome to the Stories Told podcast, where we share stories from everyday people making a positive impact, big or small. Our mission: to shape a better future by telling better stories. Thanks for joining us for episode 3 of the Stories Told podcast. When I started this business, or came up with the idea to start this business a few months ago, I had the plan that I wanted to go out and really show what we could do with a camera and some microphones and some editing software to show off the stories that we could tell and to diversify the stories we were telling, to show potential clients that, you know, we're not a one-trick pony. We are able to adapt what we do depending on the business. And so I decided to rally up a few troops, and I took my mate Tom and Eddie. Tom's a journo and Eddie's a cameraman, and we headed west, hit the road, and decided we'd try and shoot a few yarns over 48 hours and bring them back and see how all they all worked. And so I started calling around and trying to work out what we could do stories on out west. These were all for free. We just wanted to support some businesses away from the city and the country and give them the exposure that they deserve. And so the first person, or the first business that I got in touch with, was Echo Valley Farms. And that was a farm on the edge of the Great Dividing Range, run by the Breen family, Randall and Janita, and their 2 kids, Bridie and Eli. And so that was our first stop. We headed out there and got there at about 7 a.m. and spent the morning just seeing how the Breen family approach farming. They do it a lot differently to many farmers. It's a completely regenerative approach. They're looking at trying to regenerate the soil and ensure that the animals and the land work in harmony with one another for the benefit of everyone. And if you haven't caught that story, we released it a couple of weeks ago. It's called The Breen Family's 4 Goods. I won't give too much away about what those 4 goods are. You'll have to give it a watch, but you'll find some details in our story notes on that one. But yeah, not tooting our own horn, but it is well worth a watch because the message behind it is what's so important. But anyways, after we shot the story there with the Breen family, it was actually Janita Breen who, when I was talking to line up that story, I asked her if she knew of any other good local stories that would make a great yarn, and she recommended Wild Sage Collective. So Wild Sage Collective is a health and wellness hub. It's not what you'd expect to find in the middle of the outback, and it was started by a group of women whose individual businesses in town were all struggling during COVID, and the overheads of trying to, keep your business afloat during that time was very difficult, especially in a country town, hard enough in the city. And so they decided, well, why don't we work together? And the big driving force behind this was Jamie McMillan, who was a beauty therapist in town. She used to have a high-paying corporate job in the city, but moved to Allora with her husband, and they wanted to raise their family there because that's where her husband grew up. And it was a bit of a big change for Jamie, and she hadn't quite found her place, I suppose, in the community until all of these stars aligned, I suppose, and the Wild Sage Collective was born, and now it's a booming business, which is so inspiring to see. They had the vision to say, well, the outback needs some health and wellness too, so why don't we be the centre for it all? And we arrived there after spending the morning at the Echo Valley farm, and got that first taste of true country hospitality when we arrived. It had a bit of a metropolitan twist, though. We turn up at this old brick building from the 19th or the early 20th century, I believe, and this beautiful old building from the outside, but inside it's this incredibly modern space and had a really beautiful feel to it. And straight away they showed us out the back, the ladies of Wild Sage Collective, and we were given a beautiful lunch in their cafe out the back. And again, this whole place just has such a great feel about it. From the outset, I could tell that something special was happening here. And so, yeah, that's where we spent the afternoon, meeting the leading ladies behind this business and learning their stories. And that's why I think it is probably the most fitting story to release on International Women's Day, because that has been Jamie's mission with all of this, is to empower the women around her and to give the women of Allora and of country towns nearby somewhere that they can go and feel relaxed and escape for a little while and, be pampered. So this is their story told.
Let's go.
Let's go. Well, thank you for joining me this Arvo. I've just walked from the street into your store, and it's the last thing I expected to see on a one-street country town a couple of hours from Brisbane. What is it about Allora that you love? What is it about this town?
I think the thing I love about this town is that it is hidden. You know, people don't expect at all to see what they see here. They come in with that expectation that it's a little country shanty town, and there's so much more here than what meets the eye, I guess, in a way.
Absolutely. And as you step off the street and into this little oasis that you've created, talk to me about the building. I mean, how long's it been here, and how did it come into your hands? Yeah,
so the building, I believe, was originally a cafe, and that was around the 1940s, and over time it's been, a cafe, and I think predominantly it's been used as a cafe space inside of the studio. So it's funny because a lot of people that come into this space now all have stories to tell about when they could get their lollies for their 20 cents, and it was a bag full before they went to the movies and things like that. So it was really cool that there is such a history within this building. So we were working out of another premises pre-COVID, and I always loved this building, and I just always knew that at some point in time I would be in this space. And it changed hands maybe at the end of 2019. So I just approached the owners and said, look, I've got this idea. I would sort of like to move into this space. And he was just fantastic and very open to what we were trying to create and completely on board. So here we are.
Before you moved back to this town, or before you moved to this town, this is where your husband grew up.
Yeah.
What were you doing? Who were you? Who was that Jamie?
Yeah, so before I moved back to Allora, I was working in corporate banking, in financial crimes actually, and living the city life of trying to juggle being mum and being wife and being career woman. And I think the realisation happened that I couldn't do all of those things without a support network around me, and coming home to where my husband is from allowed us the opportunity to have that little bit of a network with family here. So it was probably part of the reason why we decided to make the move.
You were in the corporate world. To throw that all away, was it a tough decision?
In the end, not so much, because it came down to making this decision about being a mum and having a family and being in a career. And I didn't think that it was fair that I was forced to make that decision, but I was always going to choose my family over my job. So as much as I loved my job, I loved my family more. Yeah.
And so you moved to this country town with that family.
Yeah.
And what sort of business were you running?
No, so I was actually just working in a branch in Warwick, and had made the decision that I was just completely done with working in an office. It just isn't me. This is not what I like doing. So I went back and revisited my qualifications that I had done early 2000s at the Australian College of Natural Medicine, and kind of just decided that I needed to move back into holistic health, and probably more so for my mental health and well-being than anybody else's. But it's kind of had a bit of a flow-on effect now, and I've been able to share that with our community.
And then COVID hit.
Yeah. And then COVID hit. So we talked about moving into a bigger space. So the hairdresser and I had very much outgrown the space that we were in. COVID hit, her wedding got cancelled, and we didn't probably really have much of a direction or much of a focus. So we kind of spoke about it and went, okay, let's go. So we spent the next 6 weeks painting and renovating and drinking beers maybe sometimes, just to create this space. I guess knowing that we would come out the other side of COVID, and when we did, we would have so much more to offer to our client base.
What is it then? What have you created? Tell me what the idea was and what it's come to be now.
So I guess moving into a bigger space allowed us the opportunity to extend and expand our collective. It gave us the opportunity to bring other women into the space and to provide, for them to provide their products and services as well, in a town where it wouldn't be viable for people to do that individually in a shop front, a bricks and mortar shop front. So here we are. What are we? Very close now to almost a year. 8 months, 9 months later. And we've got a space where we have 5 individual businesses running from the enterprise, and we have 15 staff that work within in the building, I guess. So.
And what do they all do?
So we've got the hairdressers, we've got the florist, we've got the beauty therapist, we've got the massage therapist, we've got the acupuncturist, we've got the cafe, and we've also got a space where we run workshops as well upstairs, and we've got a facilitator that looks after a lot of that, very visionary and progressive in making our community a little bit more confident, I guess, to tell their story about what they play and what part they play in the community. Yeah.
What you've just described is something I'd expect to see in Tenerife maybe, or Newstead.
Yeah.
But not in a town like this.
Yeah.
How's it been received by locals?
Yeah, it's been received really well. I guess the beauty of it is say, for example, if someone comes in to have their hair done, then, they're actually getting exposure to everything else that the studio has to offer. Same with your massage clients or your cafe clients. And I think it's just opened up, a world of opportunity to cross-promote one another's businesses,
And these are businesses that, through this period, were struggling.
Well, I don't really believe that a lot of those businesses would have survived if they had to open or be in a bricks and mortar shop on their own through that COVID period. There's no way.
How does it then feel to come into work every day and to be surrounded by these women who now have a purpose and now have businesses that are staying afloat and succeeding?
Yeah.
How does it feel to be a part of that?
Yeah, it's super cool. It's so nice also to see some of the younger ones within the space grow their business and elevate into that business owner capacity. That sets my soul on fire to see those young girls have the confidence and to be able to do those things within a network of women that are always going to support them and build them up. I love that. Yeah, that's really cool.
And it's not just about your individual businesses. This is what we've sort of been talking about before the podcast, is the fact that this isn't about you guys, it's about the town as a whole and the region and what you can bring to it. What does that mean for you?
Yeah, I don't even have any words to explain what that means to me. I guess there's a period for me where I didn't feel that connection when I first moved out here, having been living my life in the city and probably not having or not knowing that I had common ground with women within this community. So to create that space is, I don't really know how to put that into words, really. Yeah, at all.
And I guess then when you contrast it to where you were all those years ago, working for a bank, and you had to make that decision between family and career, to then be able to start your own space and create a space for women where you can help give them that choice as well, but help make that choice positive. I mean, is that what's so empowering about this as well? Yeah,
100%. I was saying to you earlier that when I came back to work after starting my family, that there wasn't an opportunity or a space for me to return to work in the capacity that made me juggle or balance being a mum and being good at my job. So that, there's going to come a time where my staff start to go and have their children, and I want to be able to make it an opportunity for them to know that there is, in some capacity, opportunity for them to return to work and not have to choose about being stuck at home all the time and being, stuck at work and having to put your children into care or...
It's about making it work.
Yeah, balance. Yeah, 100%.
And what's the response then been from people who've come from out of town into town and have experienced what the Wild Sage Collective's got to offer?
Yeah, it actually still probably surprises me. The comment that we most often hear from people is that, we didn't know we could get city coffee in a country town. And I'm like, well, do you think we serve... I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but Moccona or Nescafe or something, I'm not really quite sure. But, we didn't realise that we would get this experience by coming in here.
And we're sitting in this beautiful backyard / cafe space that it's tucked under the trees. We're in an old barn shed.
This was actually originally stables, that we've just converted into an eatery area for the cafe. So it's pretty cool.
Is that what's so special about this space? I know you were saying before that people have an attachment to this building, but the fact that it does already feel part of the community. It's got that history and heritage.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I was actually only just saying to Amy, I think yesterday, is that in years to come, when we're talking about International Women's Day and they talk about Mrs. Cunnington and the people that have had this coffee shop or space before us, people talk about that like a legacy. And in years to come, I want people to talk about this space to say it was really somewhere where, you know, we felt good about going, or, you know, it was somewhere that we took our daughter so that she knew that she had a place in the world, or, you know, yeah, that anyone that stepped into this place had a nice experience here, and it becomes something that is part of Allora's history. Yeah.
What would your message then be to young women like your daughter?
Yeah.
Country girls who maybe feel they don't fit the mould.
Yeah.
What would your inspiration be to them, your words of wisdom?
I think, you know, having grown up in Western Queensland and moving away to the city and doing my time there, I think it's very important for women to step away from being in their comfort zone of a small town and do their exploring or their study or whatever. But I think to always remember where your roots are. Yeah, it's nice to come home, you know. Yeah, and it doesn't matter if your family doesn't live there anymore or whatever, it's always still home, and it's important that you keep that close to your heart. Yeah.
And I guess that home, you can make a space that and a place that works for you, where you fit.
And a feeling. It's a feeling, right? So if they leave here and they go to uni and they know that they're empowered enough to speak their truth, you know, like that's what I want for my daughter. I want her to be able to go out into that dog-eat-dog world and be confident to stand on her own 2 feet and to be empowered to be who she wants to be. Whether that's, you know, owning a cafe or being a doctor or whatever, an artist, you know, like she can be what she wants to be if she owns that and she's proud of who she is and where she's come from.
And you're proof she can do it at home.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course.
And that was Wild Sage Collective's Story Told. Now, if you want to see that story, give us a follow on Facebook and Instagram. It's up there now. And you can also subscribe to the Stories Told YouTube channel to get a heads up for when our stories are being released each week. We premiere one story a week each Friday to kick off your Friday with some feel-good vibes. If you want to tune in on Friday this week, we'll have another story from our Southern Downs tour, and it looks at Ballandean State School and the incredible work that Susan Evans and her staff and the students there have been able to do in the past 4 years by adopting a nature-based play approach to the way they educate the kids, but also their approach to recycling has seen incredible outcomes as well. And it's just a really fun story that shows kids in their element, how they should be, having fun outdoors. If you're a business though, or a brand, and you want your story told as well, you can give us a call. We are keen to tell any stories with brands and businesses that we believe in who are making a positive impact. So send us an email or give us a call. The details for that will be in our show notes.